My name is Martin, though most people just call me Grandpa Mart. I'm 70 years old, and on a quiet morning that should have meant nothing, just a cup of tea and the rustle of newspapers, my life took a turn I never expected. A letter arrived. Thick envelope. Government seal. Inside it, a confirmation that I had received $2.5 million insurance payout. I didn't shout, I didn't dance, I didn't tell a soul, because after a lifetime of raising 3 children who only showed up when they needed something, I wanted to see what lived inside their hearts when they believed I had nothing to offer. So I sent each of them the same message, just one sentence, and within minutes, their true selves stepped out of the shadows. One begged, one demanded, one tried to twist the situation into guilt, but only one child, quiet, steady, almost forgotten in the noise, replied with something no amount of money could buy. And in that moment, I knew exactly what to do with the money, and with the truth I had kept hidden for years. I'm going to tell you how a single text exposed everything: the greed, the manipulation, the masks they wore, and how one small message changed the future of our family forever. But before I begin, tell me in the comments, would you test your loved ones if everything was on the line? To everyone supporting this community, thank you. And if this is your first time here, hit like, subscribe, and the bell. You're not just joining a channel, you're joining a family that understands the cost of loyalty and the price of betrayal. Now, let me tell you how it all began. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday. Nothing remarkable about Tuesdays. They're the forgotten middle child of the week. Not fresh like Monday, not hopeful like Friday. Just there. I was sitting at my kitchen table, the same spot where I'd eaten breakfast for 43 years, the same scratched wood, the same view of the backyard where Margaret used to grow tomatoes. She died 8 months ago. Cancer. The kind that takes you slow, gives you time to say goodbye, but never enough time to actually prepare. The house still smells like her lavender soap. I haven't had the heart to throw away the half-used bar by the bathroom sink. When I saw the government seal on that envelope, my first thought was taxes. Some bureaucratic nightmare I'd have to untangle. My hands shook a little as I opened it. Arthritis has been getting worse, and I had to read the letter 3 times before the words actually landed. Life Insurance Benefit Payment Confirmation. Beneficiary: Martin Theodore Walsh. Amount: $2,500 to accruers, $2.5 million. I set the paper down like it might catch fire. Margaret had a life insurance policy I barely remembered, something her brother Levi had convinced us to get back in the 90s when the kids were still young. $20 a month. We paid it automatically, forgot it existed. Life moved on. And now, this. I should have been relieved, grateful even. Medical bills from her final months had eaten through our savings. The mortgage was almost paid off, but not quite. This money meant security, peace, maybe even a small vacation, something Margaret and I always talked about but never took. But I didn't feel relief. I felt something cold settle in my chest, something I'd been ignoring for years, pushing down every time one of my children called, because they did call, just never to ask how I was doing. Brandon, my oldest at 45, called 3 weeks after Margaret's funeral. Not to check in, to ask if I'd thought about liquidating some assets because his business was facing a temporary cash flow issue. He needed $50,000. When I said I didn't have it, he got quiet, then angry, then he hung up. Adrian, 43, my middle son, sent a text 2 months ago. Dad, when you sell the house, I want first right of refusal on Mom's jewelry collection. She promised me her engagement ring for when I proposed to Jade. Jade, his girlfriend of 4 months. Margaret's engagement ring, the one I'd saved 6 months to buy, working double shifts at the factory, was supposed to go to our daughter. And then there was Millie, my youngest, 38 years old. She visited every Sunday, brought groceries, never asked for anything. She was the only one who cried at Margaret's funeral like she'd actually lost something. I sat at that kitchen table staring at the number, 2500 onas tuin, swast, and I thought about Margaret's last coherent words before the morphine took her under for good. She'd grabbed my hand, eyes unfocused, and whispered, "Don't let them take advantage of you, Mart. Please. They'll come. They'll take everything if you let them." I'd kissed her forehead and told her she was just tired, but she wasn't. She saw something I'd been too afraid to admit. My children, 2 of them at least, didn't love me anymore. They loved what I represented, what I could give them. And now I had $2.5 million to prove it. I folded the letter carefully, slid it back into the envelope, and placed it in the drawer next to Margaret's reading glasses. Then I picked up my phone. I wasn't going to tell them about the money. Not yet. First, I needed to know the truth. I needed to see who they really were when they thought I had nothing left. Hit like if you've ever felt invisible to the people who should love you most. Because what I did next, there's no going back from. I spent 3 days thinking about the message. 3 days pacing the house, talking to Margaret's photo on the mantel like she could still hear me. Maybe she could. I don't know. But I needed someone to tell me I wasn't crazy for what I was about to do. Testing your own children. What kind of father does that? But then I'd remember Brandon's voice on the phone. Cold, transactional, asking about assets before asking about me. I'd remember Adrian's text, already dividing up Margaret's things like we were running an estate sale. And I'd think, what kind of children do that? So on Friday morning, I wrote it out. 1 sentence. Simple. Vague. Just enough to make them wonder. I need to talk to you about something important. It's about your mother's affairs. Can you come by this Sunday? I really need your help. I read it 20 times. Changed a word. Changed it back. The phrase, "I really need your help," felt like bait. But that was the point, wasn't it? To see who would bite because they cared, and who would bite because they smelled blood in the water. At 9:47 a.m., I sent it. All 3 of them. Same message. Same time. Then I set my phone face down on the table and waited. My heart was pounding like I was 20 years old again, waiting for Margaret to say yes to our first date. Except this time, I wasn't hoping for a yes. I was hoping to be wrong. 2 minutes passed. My phone buzzed. Brandon. I picked it up, hands trembling. Brandon. "Dad, I'm absolutely slammed this weekend. Big client presentation Monday. Can we do a phone call instead?" I stared at the screen. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "What's wrong?" Just, "I'm busy." I didn't respond. 30 seconds later, another text. Brandon. "Actually, how urgent is this? Is it about money? Because if it's about settling her accounts, I can send you the name of my financial advisor." There it was. Money. He'd gone there in less than 3 minutes. I set the phone down. My chest felt tight. I counted to 10. Picked it up again. Still nothing from Adrian or Millie. 5 more minutes crawled by. Then, Millie. "Hi, Dad. Yes, of course. I'll be there Sunday morning. Do you need me to bring anything? Groceries? I know you hate going to the store." I read it twice. She didn't ask what it was about. Didn't probe. Didn't hesitate. Just, yes. And then she thought about me. About what I might need. I felt something crack open in my chest. Relief. Grief. Shame that I doubted her. But I couldn't let that cloud the test. Not yet. I waited. 10 minutes later, Adrian finally replied. Adrian. "What kind of affairs? I need specifics before I can commit to driving 3 hours, Dad." Specifics. Like I was a business meeting he needed an agenda for. I typed back, "It's complicated. I'd rather explain in person." His response came fast. Adrian. "Let me guess. This is about the estate, right? I've already spoken to a lawyer. We should split everything 3 ways. Equally. That's what's fair. If you're trying to play favorites, we need to address that now." I actually laughed. A bitter, hollow sound that echoed in the empty kitchen. He hadn't asked if I was okay. Hadn't asked if I needed help. He'd gone straight to protecting his share. Margaret's voice whispered in my memory, "They'll take everything if you let them." I put the phone down and walked to the window. The backyard was overgrown. Margaret's tomato garden was a tangle of weeds now. I hadn't been able to bring myself to touch it. My phone buzzed again. Brandon. "Dad, you there? If this is about money, I need to know. I've got some credit card debt I'm dealing with, and if there's something coming to us, I need to plan accordingly." Something coming to us. Not, "How can I help you?" But, "What am I getting?" I closed my eyes, took a breath, opened them, and then I saw one more message. "Millie, take your time if you're not ready to talk yet, Dad. I'll be there Sunday no matter what. I love you. I love you." 3 words. The only person who'd said them. I sat back down at the table and put my head in my hands. The test wasn't over yet. Sunday would be the real reveal. But I already knew. 2 of my children saw me as a resource. One of them saw me as a person. And the $2.5 million sitting in that envelope upstairs, it was about to show me just how far greed could go. Subscribe and hit the bell if you want to see what happened when they all showed up Sunday. Because what I discovered in that room changed everything. Drop a comment. Have you ever been disappointed by someone you loved? You're not alone. Sunday morning came too fast. I woke up at 5 a.m. Couldn't fall back asleep. Just lay there in bed, Margaret's side still untouched, her pillow still holding the indent of her head like she might come back any moment. I got up, made coffee I didn't drink, and sat in the living room watching the sun rise through the curtains she'd picked out 15 years ago. Cream colored with little blue flowers. She said they made the room feel like spring. Now they just made it feel empty. By 9:30, I heard the first car pull into the driveway. Millie's old Honda. The one with the dent in the rear bumper from when she backed into a mailbox 3 years ago. She never got it fixed. Said it gave the car character. I watched through the window as she got out, balancing 2 grocery bags and a Tupperware container. She was wearing Margaret's favorite color, yellow. I don't know if she remembered that or if it was coincidence, but it made my throat tight. She knocked softly, then let herself in with her key. "Dad?" "In here, sweetheart." She came into the living room, set the bags down, and immediately hugged me. Not a quick side hug, a real one, the kind that says, "I'm here and you're not alone." "I brought muffins," she said, pulling back to look at my face. "Blueberry, and some actual food for your fridge because I know you've been living on toast and tea." "You didn't have to." "I wanted to." She touched my shoulder. "You look tired, Dad. Are you sleeping?" Before I could answer, another car pulled up. Brandon's black Mercedes. The one he'd bought last year, the one he'd called me about, excited, saying he'd finally made it. That was 4 months before he called asking for $50,000. He got out wearing a polo shirt and khakis. Business casual. Like this was a meeting. His wife, Ava, was with him. She stepped out in heels and sunglasses, checking her phone immediately. Millie went to the door, opened it before Brandon could knock. "Hey," she said quietly. "Millie." Brandon nodded, barely looking at her. His eyes swept past her into the house like he was doing an inventory. "Dad here?" "In the living room." They came in. Ava's heels clicked on the hardwood floor Margaret had refinished herself one summer. Brandon's cologne filled the room, something expensive and overwhelming. "Dad?" He stuck out his hand. I shook it. His grip was firm, performative, the kind of handshake you give a client. "Brandon." "Ava." Ava gave me a thin smile, already glancing around. Her eyes lingered on the bookshelf where Margaret kept her collection of antique teacups. Each one a piece she'd found at estate sales over 30 years. I saw Ava's gaze calculate their worth. "Coffee?" Millie offered. "Sure," Brandon said, sitting down without waiting for an invitation. "So, Dad, what's this about? You sounded pretty urgent." "Let's wait for Adrian," I said. Brandon checked his watch. "He's late." "He's always late," Millie said softly from the kitchen. We sat in uncomfortable silence. Ava scrolled through her phone. Brandon tapped his foot. Millie brought out coffee and muffins, set them on the table Margaret used to dust every Wednesday. 20 minutes later, Adrian finally showed up. Alone. No girlfriend. No apology for being late. He walked in like he owned the place, cargo shorts and a wrinkled t-shirt, sunglasses still on his head. "Traffic," he said, though we all knew it wasn't. He grabbed a muffin, didn't say hello to anyone, and dropped into the armchair. Margaret's chair, the one she'd read in every evening. "So," Adrian said, mouth full, "let's hear it. What's the emergency?" I looked at my 3 children sitting in the living room. Brandon, impatient, checking his phone. Adrian, sprawled out, acting like this was an inconvenience. Millie, hands folded in her lap, watching me with concern. This was the moment. I'd rehearsed it 100 times in my head. But now, looking at their faces, some familiar, some like strangers, I felt something shift inside me. Rage. Not the hot kind, the cold kind, the kind that clarifies everything. "I wanted to talk to you about your mother's life insurance policy," I said. The room changed instantly. Brandon sat up straighter. Adrian stopped chewing. Ava looked up from her phone. Even Millie went still. "There was a policy," I continued slowly. "One we'd been paying into for over 25 years. Brandon leaned forward. "And?" I paused. Let them sit in it. Let them show me what lived behind their eyes. "And? There's been a complication." "What kind of complication?" Adrian's voice had an edge now. I took a breath. This was the lie Margaret would forgive me for. "The insurance company says we missed a payment. During her final treatments, I got behind on paperwork. The policy. It lapsed." Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. Then, "What do you mean, lapsed?" Brandon's face went red. "Dad, how could you... Do you have any idea how much we were..." He stopped himself, but it was too late. "How much you were what, Brandon?" "I just mean..." "Jesus, Dad. Mom dies and we get nothing?" "We," I repeated softly. "We get nothing?" Adrian stood up. "This is unacceptable. I want to see the paperwork. This smells like negligence. We could sue the insurance company, or..." He looked at me. "Were you actually paying the premiums?" My heart turned to stone. "Are you accusing me of something, Adrian?" "I'm saying this is convenient timing. Mom dies, suddenly there's no money, and you're sitting in a house worth $500,000 free and clear." Millie's voice cut through, sharp. "Adrian, what the hell is wrong with you?" "Stay out of this, Millie. This affects all of us." "No." She stood up, hands shaking. "This affects Dad. He just lost his wife, and you're talking about suing him." "I'm talking about protecting what's ours," Adrian shot back. "Ours?" Millie's voice broke. "She was our mother." Ava finally spoke, her voice sugary and false. "I think what Adrian means is that Margaret would have wanted her children taken care of. Right, honey?" She looked at Brandon. Brandon nodded. "Dad, I'm sorry, but I need to be honest. I was counting on this. My business is in trouble. Real trouble. I need..." "How much?" I asked. He blinked. "What? How much were you counting on?" His jaw worked. "I don't know. Something. Anything." I looked at Adrian. "And you?" "Enough to start fresh. Get out of debt. Buy a ring." His voice was bitter now, like I'd personally stolen from him. Then I looked at Millie. She was crying. Not for money. For me. "Dad," she whispered, "are you going to be okay? How are you going to manage?" And that's when I knew. That's when I knew everything I needed to know. "Get out," I said quietly. "What?" Brandon stood. "Get out of my house, all of you, except Millie." "Dad, you can't be serious." "I've never been more serious in my life." My voice was steady, cold. "Your mother is 8 months dead. and you're sitting in her chair arguing about money you never had. So get out. Now." Adrian grabbed his keys. "You're going to regret this." "I already do," I said. "I regret not seeing this sooner." Brandon and Ava left without another word. Adrian slammed the door behind him. And then it was just Millie and me. She walked over, knelt in front of my chair, and took my hands. "I'm so sorry, Dad." "Don't be," I said. "You have nothing to apologize for." But I did. I had $2.5 million sitting in an envelope upstairs. And I'd just seen exactly who deserved it. Like this video if you've ever had to cut toxic people out of your life, even when it hurt. Because what I did next, they never saw coming. After they left, Millie stayed. She didn't ask questions, didn't push, just quietly started cleaning up the coffee cups, wrapping the leftover muffins, moving through the house like she'd done 1,000 times before. I sat in my chair, not Margaret's, I still couldn't sit there, and watched her. She was humming, something Margaret used to hum. I couldn't place the song, but it made the house feel less empty. "Millie," I said finally. She turned from the sink. "Yeah, Dad." "Why do you come here every Sunday?" She looked confused. "What do you mean?" "You have a life, a job, friends. You could be doing anything else with your weekends. So why do you keep showing up?" She dried her hands on the towel, Margaret's sunflower towel, and came to sit across from me. "Because you're my dad," she said simply, "and because Mom asked me to." My chest tightened. "When?" "The day before she died, when you went home to shower." Millie's eyes welled up. She was barely conscious, but she grabbed my hand and said, "Take care of him. He's going to be so lost. Promise me." I couldn't speak. "So I promised," Millie continued, wiping her eyes, "and even if she hadn't asked, I'd still be here, because I love you, not because of what you have or what you can give me, just because you're you." I stood up, pulled her into a hug, and let myself cry for the first time since the funeral. We stood there in the kitchen, holding each other, mourning Margaret together the way I should have been able to mourn with all my children, but couldn't. When we finally pulled apart, I made a decision. "Millie, I need to tell you something, but you have to promise me you won't say anything. Not yet." She nodded, concerned. "Okay." I went upstairs, retrieved the envelope from the drawer, and brought it down, handed it to her. She opened it, read the letter, and her face went pale. "Dad, this is $2.5 million, I finished, from your mother's life insurance. The policy didn't lapse." I lied. She looked up at me, shocked. "Why?" "Because I needed to know the truth." I sat down, suddenly exhausted. I needed to see who they really were when they thought there was nothing to gain. Millie set the letter down carefully like it might explode. "So, they don't know?" "No one knows, except you, and my lawyer, Levi." She was quiet for a long time. Then, "What are you going to do?" That was the question, wasn't it? I'd spent the last 3 days thinking about it, planning it. Margaret's voice in my head guiding me. Don't let them take advantage of you. But also, forgive when you can. "I'm going to give them one more chance," I said. Millie frowned. "Dad, after what they just said—" "One more test," I interrupted. "A final one. And if they fail, then I'll know I did everything I could." "What kind of test?" I told her. It was cruel. I knew that. But after what I'd seen today, the coldness, the entitlement, the complete lack of care for me as a person, I needed absolute proof. Proof that I wasn't being paranoid. Proof that Margaret was right. Proof that would hold up in my own conscience when I changed my will. Over the next week, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to Brandon. "Hey, Dad," he answered, sounding cautious. "Look, about Sunday. I was stressed. I shouldn't have— Brandon, I need to ask you something." "Okay." "I'm thinking of selling the house, downsizing to an apartment. Something smaller, easier to manage." Silence on the other end. "That's probably smart," he said carefully. "Real estate market is good right now. The thing is, I'm still dealing with some of your mother's medical bills, the ones insurance didn't cover. I'm about 30,000 short." Another silence. Here it comes, I thought. Here's where he offers to help. Damn, Dad, that's rough. I waited. "Have you thought about a home equity loan? Or maybe selling some of Mom's jewelry? That stuff's got to be worth something." My hand tightened on the phone. "I was actually hoping maybe you could help. Just a loan. I'd pay you back." The pause was long enough to break something inside me. "Dad, I wish I could. I really do. But after what you told us Sunday, about the insurance, I'm tapped out. I had to restructure my whole financial plan. Maybe ask Adrian, or Millie. She's good at saving." "Right," I said quietly. "Of course. Don't worry about it." "Sorry, Dad. Love you." He hung up before I could respond. I called Adrian next. Same story. Same excuse. 30 grand. "Dad, I don't have that kind of liquid cash. Besides, those were your decisions about her treatment. I can't be held responsible for that. Maybe you should have thought about the cost before." I hung up on him, sat there, phone in my hand, shaking with something between fury and grief. Then I called Millie. "Dad, is everything okay?" I told her the same story. The medical bills, the $30,000. She didn't hesitate. "I have $40,000 in savings. It's yours, all of it. When do you need it?" I closed my eyes. "Millie, I can transfer it today, or write you a check, whatever's easier." "Sweetheart, I don't—" "Dad, please, Mom took care of us our whole lives. Let me take care of you now." I sat there in Margaret's kitchen, holding the phone, and I understood something profound. I had 3 children, but only one of them was truly mine. The test was over. I knew what I had to do. "Millie, I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" "Always." "Then meet me at Levi's office next Saturday, 2 p.m. I'm going to need you there for something important." "Is everything okay?" "It will be," I said. "It will be." After I hung up, I called Brandon and Adrian back. Told them the same thing. Family meeting at the lawyer's office, Saturday, 2 p.m., mandatory. Brandon tried to ask why. I didn't give him an answer. Adrian demanded to know what it was about. I told him he'd find out when he got there. Then I sat down and wrote a letter. Not to my children. To Margaret. "Dear Maggie, you were right. About everything. I'm sorry I didn't believe you. I'm sorry I thought your fear was just the medication talking. You saw what I couldn't. That somewhere along the way we raised 2 children who forgot what love actually means. But we got one right. Millie is everything you hoped she'd be. Kind, generous, real. And this Saturday, I'm going to make sure she's protected. The way you asked me to. I love you. I miss you. And I promise, I won't let them take advantage of me. Mart." I folded the letter, put it in the drawer with Margaret's reading glasses, and waited for Saturday to come. The day I would finally tell the truth. The day everything would change. Subscribe if you believe some people show you who they are when you stop giving them what they want. Drop a comment. Have you ever had to choose between family and fairness? Because next, I'm revealing what happened in that lawyer's office. And trust me, no one saw it coming. Saturday arrived like Judgment Day. I woke up with my stomach in knots, the kind of nervous energy I hadn't felt since the day I married Margaret. Except that day, I was excited. Today, I was terrified. Not of what I was about to do, but of what it would mean afterward. The end of my family as I knew it. Levi's office was downtown in one of those old brick buildings with tall windows and creaky floors. He'd been Margaret's friend first back in college before she ever met me. When she got sick, he helped us set up the will, the medical directives, all the paperwork you hope you'll never need. He knew everything, which is why 3 days ago I'd called him and told him what I was planning. "Martin," he'd said carefully, "are you absolutely sure about this?" I've never been more sure of anything. Once you do this, there's no taking it back. Brandon and Adrian. They're going to be furious. They've already shown me who they are, Levi. I'm just responding accordingly. There was a long pause. Then, Margaret would be proud of you. That almost broke me. Now, sitting in my truck outside Levi's office at 1:45 p.m., I watched the street and waited. Millie arrived first. She always did. She parked, got out, saw my truck, and waved. Even from a distance, I could see the worry on her face. She had no idea what was coming. I'd only told her there was something important she needed to hear. Brandon pulled up 5 minutes later in his Mercedes, Ava in the passenger seat. She wasn't invited, but of course she came anyway. Probably thought there'd be money involved. She was right, just not for her. Adrian arrived last, screeching into a spot and jogging up the steps. He was wearing a blazer over a t-shirt, like he was trying to look respectable but couldn't commit. At exactly 2 p.m., we all gathered in Levi's conference room. It was small, wood-paneled with a long table and uncomfortable chairs. Legal books lined the walls. A window overlooked the street below. Levi sat at the head of the table, his expression carefully neutral. I sat to his right, Millie beside me. Brandon and Ava sat across from us. Adrian slouched at the far end, arms crossed. "Thanks for coming," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "Can we just get to it?" Adrian checked his phone. "I've got plans at 4. Levi cleared his throat. "This meeting is regarding the estate of Margaret Eleanor Walsh and certain financial matters related to her passing." Brandon leaned forward. Ava's eyes sharpened. Millie glanced at me, confused. "As you all know," Levi continued, "your father informed you last Sunday that your mother's life insurance policy had lapsed, that there would be no payout." "Yeah," Adrian muttered. "We know." Levi looked at me. I nodded. "That was a lie," I said. The room went silent. Brandon's face slowly changed. "What?" "There was no lapse. The insurance company paid out in full. $2.5 million. I received the check 4 weeks ago." You could hear the air leave the room. Ava's mouth fell open. Brandon stood up halfway, then sat back down. "You... what?" Adrian's face went red. "Are you kidding me right now?" "No," I said calmly. "I'm not kidding." "So you lied to us?" Brandon's voice climbed. "You lied about the money?" "Yes." "Why?" Ava demanded. "Why would you do that?" I looked at her. This woman who'd walked into my house 2 weeks ago and photographed my wife's belongings like she was shopping at an estate sale. "Because I needed to see who you really were," I said, "when you thought there was nothing to gain." Adrian slammed his hand on the table. "This is insane. You manipulated us." "I tested you," I corrected. "There's a difference." "Tested us?" Brandon was standing now, pacing. "We're your children, not lab rats." "Then act like my children." My voice rose for the first time. "Not like vultures circling a corpse." Millie put a hand on my arm. "Dad." I took a breath, steadied myself. Levi spoke again. "Mr. Walsh has asked me to document certain events that occurred over the past several weeks. Events that will inform how the estate is distributed." He pressed a button on a small recorder in the center of the table. And then my voice played back. The phone call with Brandon. His refusal to help with the medical bills. His suggestion that I sell Margaret's jewelry instead. Brandon went pale. Then Adrian's voice. Cold. Dismissive. Blaming me for Margaret's treatment costs. Adrian stopped moving. Then, finally, Millie's voice. Immediate. Generous. Offering everything she had without a second's hesitation. When the recording stopped, nobody spoke. "Over the past month," I said quietly, "I asked each of you for help. Financial help. When I told you I had nothing, 2 of you disappeared. 1 of you offered me everything." "That's not fair," Brandon said, but his voice was weak now. "I have expenses. A business. I couldn't just..." You asked me to sell your mother's engagement ring, I interrupted. You told me to liquidate her jewelry, her things, the things she loved, before you'd help me with medical bills. And you, I turned to Adrian, you told me I should have thought about the cost before I decided to save her life. Adrian's jaw clenched. I didn't mean it like that. Then how did you mean it? Silence. I looked at Millie. She was crying quietly, staring at the table. Only one of you, I continued, acted like I mattered, like I was a person, not an asset. So what are you saying? Brandon's voice cracked. You're cutting us out. No, I said. I'm giving you exactly what you showed me you deserved. Levi opened a folder and slid 3 documents across the table. 1 to Brandon, 1 to Adrian, 1 to Millie. These are the distributions, Levi said, as outlined in the revised will, which Mr. Walsh executed this morning. Brandon grabbed his paper, read it, and his face drained of color. Adrian read his and stood up violently. 200,000. That's it. That's it, I confirmed. You're giving us crumbs, Adrian shouted. While Millie gets... He looked at her document, which she hadn't touched. She gets over 2 million? She gets everything, I said. The money, the house, your mother's belongings, because she's the only one who earned it. Brandon looked like he might be sick. Dad, please, my business, I need this. You needed me, I said, and you weren't there. Ava grabbed Brandon's arm. We can contest this. Undue influence. He's clearly not in his right mind. Levi's voice cut through, sharp and professional. Mrs. Walsh, I'd advise against that. Mr. Walsh has been fully evaluated by 2 independent physicians. He is of sound mind, and every conversation, every test, every response has been documented and witnessed. You'll lose, and it will cost you more than you'd gain. Adrian threw his paper on the table. This is garbage. You're punishing us for being honest about our situations. No, I said quietly. I'm rewarding the person who loved me when it wasn't profitable. I stood up, looked at Brandon, at Adrian. If you want a relationship with me going forward, it won't be based on what I can give you. It'll be based on who you choose to become from this moment on. That's up to you. Brandon sank into his chair, head in his hands. Adrian stormed out, slamming the door so hard the window rattled. Ava followed him without a word. And then it was just Millie, Levi, and me. Millie finally picked up her document, read it, and looked at me with tears streaming down her face. Dad, I don't need all this. They're still your sons. And you're still my daughter, I said. The one who showed up. The one who cared. Your mother asked me to protect you. This is how I'm doing it. She came around the table and hugged me, and we stood there while Levi quietly gathered his papers. Outside, I could hear Brandon's Mercedes start up and drive away. Inside, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Hit like if you believe people show you who they really are when something's on the line. Because what happened next, not everyone saw coming. Comment below. Was I wrong? Too harsh? Let me know. Life moved on, the way it always does. Brandon didn't speak to me for 6 weeks. Then, one Tuesday, he called. Dad? His voice was different, smaller. I'm here, I said. I've been going to therapy, talking about everything, about Mom, about money, about why I reacted the way I did. I didn't say anything, just listened. I was so scared, he continued. My business was failing. I felt like I was drowning. And when I thought there might be money, I stopped seeing you as my dad. I saw you as a solution. I know, I said quietly. That's not an excuse. It's just the truth. And I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry. We talked for an hour. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't healed, but it was honest. We meet for coffee now. Once a month, sometimes twice. It's a start. Adrian's a different story. He sent one text 3 weeks after the meeting. When you're ready to be reasonable, let me know. I never responded. I heard through Millie that he moved to another state. New job, new life, cutting ties with the family entirely. Some people can't forgive you for holding them accountable, and that's okay. I've made peace with it. But Millie thrived. She quit her stressful corporate job, the one that was grinding her down, used part of the inheritance to start a nonprofit, exactly like Margaret had always dreamed of. They help families cover medical expenses when insurance won't, when the bills pile up, when the choice is between treatment and bankruptcy. She named it Margaret's Promise. Last month, she invited me to the opening, a small office downtown, modest but bright. Photos of Margaret on the wall, flowers everywhere, her favorites. I stood in that office watching Millie talk to a young mother whose husband was undergoing chemo, and I saw Margaret in her. The kindness, the fierce determination to help people. That's when I knew I'd made the right choice. Not just with the money, but with the truth. People ask me if I regret testing my children, if I feel guilty for lying, for manipulating, for setting them up. The truth? No, because I didn't set them up. I just removed the mask. I gave them space to show me who they really were. And they did. Some people love you for you. Some people love you for what you provide. It took $2.5 million to learn which was which, but it was worth every penny. I'm 70 years old now. I live alone in the house Margaret and I built together. Millie visits every Sunday, just like she always did. Brandon visits sometimes too, slowly rebuilding what was broken. Adrian's gone. Maybe forever. And I'm okay with that, because I learned something Margaret tried to teach me before she died. You can't make people love you the way you deserve, but you can stop rewarding them for not trying. I miss her every single day, but I honor her by protecting the one child who honored us both. And that's enough. If this story touched you, subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to protect yourself, even from family. And drop a comment. What would you have done in my situation? Because I'd love to know. Thank you for being part of this journey. You're not just viewers, you're family, the kind that shows up, and that means everything. Grandpa Mart.